This is video journal number 1, and today I'm going to be describing the characteristics of autism spectrum disorder ASD. And for this assignment, I chose to complete the affirm modules as a way to meet my observation requirements. The module that I completed was Introduction to Autism Spectrum Disorder. And one of the areas that was covered in the module was social skills. And many of our students with autism, they lack social skills. They don't have the ability to communicate their needs. They don't communicate. They can't carry on a conversation back and forth with their peers or adults. And something else that is a characteristic of students with autism is that they have trouble making eye contact with another person, and that is something that I see daily in the classroom where I work in, because the students, when I'm talking to them, they are focusing on something else. And sometimes people that don't have experience working with students with autism, they might think that, oh, well, this student is being rude. He's not looking at me, but that is not the case. That is part of their disability, is that they're not able to do that. Another characteristic is that they have difficulty understanding communication. So what that means is that they have difficulty following directions. They have difficulty understanding questions or demands that are being made. And sometimes it takes longer for them to process. Like, I have a student that it takes him a long time, and I have to pause and give him 5 to 10 seconds for him to be able to process the request that we are asking of him. And that is something that I learned from one of the behaviorists, because he said, oh, well, this student has trouble processing, so how about if you guys try to ask something and then wait for 5 seconds until he's able to process. And from my experience, I noticed that that works, because we're not on constantly talking to him and telling him stuff that could be overwhelming for him. And also we have the students, many of our students with autism, they also have echolalia, which is that they repeat everything that you say to them. This is mostly seen in students with lower functioning autism. So everything that you tell them, like, oh, good morning, and you say their name, and then they say good morning, but they say their own name. So they're just repeating what you're saying. And another thing that is very common is scripted talking, which is that they repeat things from previous conversations or from TV shows that they watch at home. So they just repeat that, and sometimes it's hard because it doesn't make sense, and it's hard to understand what they're trying to communicate to you. And something else that is very common is repetitive behaviors, and that is like students like rocking back and forth, flapping their arms, or or slamming on the table or on the walls. That is repetitive behaviors. Something else that is very common in autism is that they have trouble with changes because they're so comfortable with having everything the same that once you try to change something in their schedule or in their routines, that could create behavioral problems. And what else? Something else that comes into mind is um, food textures. Students with autism, they're very picky eaters because there are some foods that they don't like the texture, they don't like the smell. So they're very specific with their diet, with what they eat. And we also have students that have hyposensitivity, which is that they have they don't feel they don't feel like loud noises. It doesn't bother them, or the weather when it's really cold or really hot, that doesn't seem to bother them. And some of them have high tolerance to pain, so they may get hurt, fall down, and they they can't feel it, so it's hard for them to communicate, okay, I'm hurt or something happened to me, because they have hyposensitivity. On the other side, we have students that are hypersensitive, which means that they get bothered by loud noises, bright lights, and so these are some of the characteristics that we went over in the module. And also, most of these characteristics I'm able to see in the classroom where I work in. And many of the techniques that I've read through the first 3 weeks of class, many of them are things are they're really good reviews, because some of them I've learned before, but now it's a refresher for me. So I'm able to, or once we go back to school, I'm going to be able to implement that with my students. Thank you.